Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "We have guided missiles, but we have misguided man." Keep this in mind as we discuss today Saudi Arabia's consideration of purchasing Russian missile defense system. And what does it mean for the future geopolitical landscape of the Middle East? My name is Dr. David Oualaalou.
And my name is Dr. Ross Stewart.
And you are watching Geopolitics in Conflict.
We'd like to thank our viewers. They're helping us get to that projected number that one of our viewers wrote in and told us about.
What number is that, Ross?
100,000 viewers.
I saw another one that says 70 million. So, yeah, indeed, 70 million. That's what. Can you imagine that? So
I can imagine it would make the impact that we want to make in the world if we had that large a number of people.
Exactly.
What would the world be like if that many new people were informed as to what's really going on?
Well, that starts with subscription. So
please subscribe.
Please subscribe if you have not done already so. Thank you so much for your support. But also we want to thank our Patreon members for their continued support. And for you, if you like our videos, consider subscribing to our Patreon membership. Thank you once again for our support. Back to our topic.
The Americans, without any hesitation, called their Patriot anti-aircraft missile system the best in the world, and its sale to foreign operators is a huge privilege for their closest allies and partners. What do you think, David?
I don't know about that statement, Ross. I will have to think twice about that, given what just took place now with none other than our closest allies in the Middle East. Saudi Arabia. That's correct. Well, what Saudi Arabia is known for? It purchased US American weapon systems. As a matter of fact, as of 2015, Saudi Arabia has acquired about 144 Patriot missiles defense system. And it was upgraded or updated by none other than Raytheon corporations for over $36 billion. We will have a link for you at the bottom of the description to see where we get that information from. And by the way, who used to sit on the board of Raytheon?
Oh, do tell.
It's the current Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin. And just right there, it tells you how messed up our system is, because the rules are, if you are a former military and just retired, you have to wait 7 years before you serve as a Secretary of Defense. So they made an exception to him, like they did to the one before him, General Mattis. And that's right there. It tells you how messed up our system is. But that's not about that. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about, now all of a sudden, the Saudis that were saying Riyadh, the capital, is one of the most secure cities in the Middle East.
Oh, think again.
I know, because now the exposure of the Patriot missile defense system, it proved that they couldn't defend against the Houthis. Houthis have been launching some missiles.
They've been launching modified old-time Scud missiles and getting through.
I know. That's all started, by the way, for you if you do not know the background of this, it's all started in 2014 with the civil war in Yemen, in which Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates are now bogged down into that war. It's a shame on those two countries that they are rendering Yemen, the poorest country in the Arab world. The devastation is far beyond what you can even imagine.
You've been on the ground there, haven't you?
I did spend about 2 or 3 years back and forth between Washington and Yemen. Wonderful people. The people are so hospitable. And the country doesn't have much. And yet the Saudis and United Arab Emirates are pounding on that country with the weapons we, the United States, UK, Germany, France, the Western world, we providing the Saudis to go ahead and slaughter those Yemenis. And yet they are saying, usually in Islam, you are not supposed to treat your brother, let alone a Muslim country to another.
Yeah.
But that's not the point. The point is now that the Saudis are claiming, oh, we have this Patriot system that can defend against any missiles coming. Well, after the war started, the civil war, the Houthis start sending a barrage of missiles into they started sending a barrage of missiles into the Saudi Arabia, in Riyadh. And the Saudis, guess what the Saudis were saying? Oh, we shut down all the missiles, which is a lie. Because you know why? He was an investigative journalist from one of the most reputable magazines, which is Foreign Policy. Mm-hmm. They conduct their own investigation, and guess what they found?
Oh, do tell us.
Yeah, no Patriot missile was able to defeat any of the incoming missiles into Riyadh.
Would you consider that a failure?
Are a much bigger proportions of it. Why? Because the Saudis were saying, we have Riyadh is secured. The U.S. is saying our Patriot system, This one has nothing to do with how incompetent the Saudi military is. Has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the technology itself. That is a failure. So, and what makes even the case worse is in 2017, the Houthis have attacked, the port of Jazan, and they attacked the oil refinery of Aramco.
Oh,
you're talking about and yet the Saudis couldn't defend themselves against that.
This might be an inspiration for peace talks.
Well, Saudis are considering that behind the scene because they realized they couldn't defeat the Houthis. And shame on us providing weapons behind closed doors to the Saudis to continue this slaughter against the Yemenis.
How many billions in sales?
That was just this modernization of the 144 unit was over $36 billion. So for the Yemen, quagmire is still going on, and we are closing our eyes on those atrocities. So.
Let me read from one of my favorite books.
Sure.
Now that missiles are starting to descend on Riyadh, Saudi Arabia is calling on its U.S. patron to intervene. Tactically, the Saudis and their allies in the United Arab Emirates are bogged down in their mission to reinstate a former president, Hadi. Strategically, the missile attack suggests the alliance may be losing.
That's correct. And that's from the book I wrote about Saudi Arabia back a couple years ago. And the idea of this thinking of, because the Saudis have so many U.S. weapons, they can just walk into Yemen and defeat it. It's no different than what the U.S. experienced in Afghanistan. So
the Saudis might have their own humiliating,
exactly, yeah. And it's
failure.
no laughing matter, because it's the humiliation and the arrogance of, in this case, Saudi Arabia and Yemen, and the U.S. in Afghanistan, thinking that we are this mighty mighty, and we couldn't defeat fighters that have, 1940s weapons. That it's because they have the will and the drive. We don't. Saudis is no exceptions. As a matter of fact, Saudis, if there is no American around, they won't be able to fly a plane.
No.
They can't. And that leads to one question. And the question that even for our viewers to consider is, what will happen to those countries when they run out of oil, for example? What are they going to be doing? Because oil is the only thing that sustained them, their existence. Saudis, what can they produce? Nothing. So, and that becomes the question of these missile systems that is failing, and they are not able to protect, as they claim anytime I used to read somewhere with the Saudis news coming out and saying they have destroyed incoming missiles, I knew it was a lie. I just knew it was a lie.
Do we have any evidence that the Russian anti-missile system is any better?
Oh, actually, the Russians is. We're not even talking about the latest one, the 500 series missiles. Those are far advanced. As a matter of fact, it's a reality that, you won't hear much about it here in the U.S., is that we don't have anything to defend against it. That's how advanced that missile system is, you know. And this is what prompted the Saudis. And I have it was an air show. I believe it was in 2000. It's called. I have the name of it here. It's called Army 2020. It was an Army 2020 show where the Saudis saw the Russians' system that will work for their needs. And that's why now some sheikhs in Saudi Arabia, because remember, it's a tribal society.
Yes.
Even though you have the king and all that, it's still the tribes has a say into what's going on. There's now a conversation that they are not happy with the U.S. system, or they are considering purchasing the Russian system. Well, what the Russians wants to sell the Saudis, assuming they come to an agreement, they're not going to sell them the 400 missile system or the 500 missile system. They're going to sell them the 300 missile system, which is not an old system. It's just not in comparison to it's not in comparison to what they have right now. So what's called it's the Abakan system. It's 300 missile system. The idea of the fact that the Saudis are considering buying from Russia, it tells you the story right there. So exactly like what Turkey did. Turkey went ahead and purchased the 400 missile system. Iran is going to be purchasing the 400 missile system.
That's putting the U.S. out of that business.
And here is why, Ross, because the Russian system cost about $500 million. The U.S. system cost about $1 billion.
A better product for half the price.
Exactly. For a better performance.
And better performance, yeah.
So, and that is why the Saudis now are considering this is big time. They're going to go with the Russians.
I can quite imagine that the U.S. is pretty upset about it. And there ought to be a lot of talks behind the scenes on this one.
Well, actually, the U.S. is going to try to intervene behind the scenes by using what we always use, Sanctions Act, you know. But in the case of Saudi Arabia, the case might be different. You know why? Because Saudi Arabia is an ally.
Oh, yeah.
So the U.S. might close its eyes on allowing the Saudis to purchase the old system. Now, if the Saudis were to purchase the 500 missile system, which is not in service yet, it's coming out soon, I don't think so the U.S. will allow it. You know. But at the same time, it tells you the shifting balance of power in the Middle East.
This is really significant that the Russians have put this together and that the United States technology is now obsolete.
Well, it starts to tell you, you know, we cut corners. You know, I'm going to say straightforward. Like in everything we do, I'm not generalizing here, and it's not everybody. I mean, we got to be fair to honest people, but in general term, we do cut corners. You know, you look at just how our Congress is operating, our politicians, they cutting corners in every aspect. So this is no different, because the idea is the profits. That's all they are after. Who cares whether the system performed to the best of its abilities or not? And now, when you have the Houthis missiles raining on Riyadh, it exposed the failure of the Patriot Missile System.
You know, we really have to ask the question. With the defense budget in the United States being a minimum of $750 billion, where is that money going?
Yeah.
We can't even have the best systems in the world, even though we're spending more on national defense than the next 10 countries put together.
You're right.
And it includes Russia.
Exactly. And if I may add, Ross, we just added $50 billion for next 2022 budget.
$800 billion.
Exactly.
And our systems can't even defend Riyadh.
Yeah. It's because, you know, most of us Americans, and again, I shall not generalize, but most of us Americans are not awake to realize that for this beast, this machine to be fed, you have to have conflicts. You have to have create conflicts so you can sell weapons. And Saudis are no different. Saudis, because they have nothing, they can't. If it weren't for the U.S., their survival. Can you imagine? Here is something to consider, just out of hypotheticals, you know. Even though I did write about it in the book. Can you imagine a war between Iran and Saudi Arabia?
I can imagine it, but without the U.S. being there,
Yes.
I can imagine, I can pretty well predict what the outcome's going to be.
Yeah, within a week, Iran will run over Saudi Arabia.
Right.
Because despite all Saudi's missile systems and all that stuff, they couldn't defend against the Houthis. The Houthis is nothing but a rubble. It's almost like the equivalency of Taliban, not in ideology, but the structure.
Yeah.
It's just rebels, basically, but from the north, and that's how they are. And if you are to fight a well-organized army like Iran, so you can just see where it's going. So this is where that challenge is for the Saudis. Now they are coming to realize that Patriot system, it's not working to their advantage because it's not meeting the needs for what they want for defense. The Russian, the S-300 defense system, it's exactly what it's doing. Its purpose is to defend against tactical missiles, which is exactly what the Houthis are launching over on Riyadh and the port of Jazan and Aramco oil facilities. So, and this is why the Saudis are in a serious talk. They're going to be talking. They are, as a matter of fact, talking to the Russians as we speak to consider that one. Now, what the U.S. is going to do, the U.S. is going to let it go, basically, because it's an ally. And remember, just for you to know how the dynamics are. Anytime unemployment goes up in the United States, the Saudis write a check for $60 billion. All of a sudden, unemployment goes down.
Wow.
It's that type of a relationship that exists between the U.S. and Saudi Arabia. But it comes at a cost. And the cost, you know what? We're closing our eyes on atrocities that the Saudis are committing, like in Yemen, for example. You know, where is this human rights defendants? Where is this ideals of democracy? Where is this rights to defend the defenseless? Because in Yemen, you know, I saw with my own eyes, it's a poor country. They have nothing. You know, they are lucky if they can have dinner. And for us, in the US or the West for that matter, we turn in a blind eye. Why? Because the Saudis, and you know, to me, that's hypocrisy at its best. And I personally, I get emotional on this because it pains me to see, because I saw with my own eyes. I saw.
So what we're seeing from the U.S. government is situational ethics, ethics of convenience.
That's exactly right. Exactly.
And so we see the Saudis doing these horrible things to essentially an almost helpless people.
They are helpless because they have nothing to defend with.
And the United States turns its back on the whole situation.
Yeah, shame on us.
Right.
You know, as a country that we stand for so-called democracy. Where it is? When it comes, when it matters, we don't step up, because that's what it is. You can talk about leadership all you want, but if you don't step up when it matters, then what's the point?
And the United States has a remarkably long history of this kind of turn the back on morals and ethics.
Well, look at just what happened in Afghanistan.
Oh, that's bad enough. That's tragic, actually.
And you will think we will learn from history. You will think we will learn. This is like what pains me as an American citizen is we are not willing to learn from the lessons of history to avoid the next mistakes. You know, as we record this video right now, my brain is racing into what are the hawks in Washington are planning the next conflict is going to be. Is it going to be Asia? Is it going to be South China Sea? Is it going to be Taiwan? Is it going to be the Horn of Africa? Where is the next conflict going to be? Because that's what I'm thinking about, because they have to feed the beast in Washington at the expense of American citizens.
Would you say that that's the number one takeaway from this show today?
I will have to say that, Russ, because to me, this kind of exposure, it shows the failure of not only our morality per se or ethical standards when it comes down to, for example, you know, if you have Saudis as your customer, why don't you tell them, hey, you need to stop slaughtering the Yemenis? Straightforward. You need to stop selling weapons. You need to stop allowing defense contractors to just dictate whatever policies we do. To me, that's you know, for us, you and I, Ross, all of us as American citizens, we need to grasp this understanding. And shame on our politicians that they turn a blind eye on atrocities like that and call ourselves as a great democracy the world ever seen. Where is the reality of it? When it matters, we couldn't step up.
And I would say that's the appropriate conclusion for today. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe.
And as always, stay informed. Till next time. Bye-bye.